What if I told you there was a surefire Hall of Famer that never got to experience their true potential? Well, that is very much the story for Maurice Stokes. Welcome in or welcome back. We've all heard the story before. Hell, depending on who you are a fan of, you've probably experienced this story multiple times over. The story goes something like this. A young, highly touted prospect comes into the league and has an incredible rookie or even a couple years in the league, but unfortunately, they get unlucky, they get injured, and it's never the same after that. A couple names probably came to your mind immediately. Grant Hill, Victor Oladipo, Greg Oden. Unfortunately, the list is infinite, and there isn't really anything that we can do about the so-called injury bug. Some players, like LeBron, are blessed with health their entire careers, and others get the rug pulled out from under them right before we get to experience how great they truly are. That is the story for Maurice Stokes. I really stumbled upon this while researching for another video, be on the lookout for that, but after I saw it, I couldn't pass it up. To really understand Maurice's story, we have to start at the beginning. Maurice was born in Rankin, Pennsylvania, which is a town outside of Pittsburgh where he was one of 4 children. His father was a steel mill worker and his mother was a homemaker. At 8 years old, he and his family would move to Homewood, where he would later attend Westinghouse High School. Now, I think usually for the elite of the elite, the people who make the NBA, no matter what year it was, they are kind of viewed as the best basketball player on their team their entire time growing up. But for Maurice, he didn't even start his first 2 years in high school. He came off the bench. But he was a very integral part in back-to-back city championships for his junior and senior year of high school. After high school, he decided to stay close to home. He ended up going to St. Francis College, which is in Loretto, Pennsylvania, which is about an hour away from Homewood. Now, a bit of interesting trivia about our friend Maurice here. His first 2 years at St. Francis are undocumented. I was unable to confirm this, but I do know that up until 1972, freshmen were not allowed to play varsity basketball, and I would have to imagine that in the 50s, there was some other similar rule for underclassmen, freshmen, and sophomores. Now, there is a chance that Sports Reference, the database that I'm using for a lot of these stats, just haven't gone back all that time in the 50s to catalog those stats. And something else that may have to do with it, I know that St. Francis was not considered a major school until the 1955-56 season. Regardless of why Maurice Stokes' first 2 years at St. Francis are undocumented and there are no stats, he certainly made up for it for his junior and senior year. For his documented career at St. Francis College, he averaged 25.2 points per game and 26.3 rebounds per game. Now, if I were to nitpick any part of his game, I would say that he wasn't hyper efficient. He only shot 42.7%, but let me assure you, he got those shots up. He averaged 23 shots a game and 25 his senior year. And while he wasn't very efficient, you can't deny the impact that he had on that Red Flash team. He led St. Francis College to the NIT tournament in 1955, where he won the tournament MVP despite his team finishing 4th. Maurice Stokes left St. Francis College as the team's second all-time leading scorer and the team's all-time leading rebounder, a record he still holds to this day with 1,819 rebounds. The Red Flash were 97-30 in his 4 years at the school, and he was later inducted into the St. Francis Athletic Hall of Fame. With a stellar college career behind him, he was selected 2nd overall in the 1955 NBA draft by the Rochester Royals, and it did not take long for him to make an impact. During his rookie year, in which he played 67 games, he averaged 16.8 points, 16.3 rebounds, and 4.9 assists a game. Now, during this time, there were some pretty prominent, what I call 15-5-5 guys. Maurice was certainly in that elite class of players, but with him being a center doing that in a land of almost exclusively guards like Bob Cousy and Tom Gola, it really made him stand out in the crowd. With stats like this, it really shouldn't come to any sort of surprise to you that he was an all-star during his rookie year, has the Rookie of the Year award for that 1955-1956 season, was 2nd team All-NBA, and finished 7th in MVP voting. A truly incredible start to a career, and it didn't end there. Stokes' sophomore season only displayed more dominance, averaging 15.6 points per game, 17.4 rebounds per game, and 4.6 assists per game in 72 games. That stat he had, 72 games played, led the entire league. He also managed to set a league record at the time for most rebounds in a single season with 1,256. He was named an All-Star again, finished on the 2nd team All-NBA, and this time finished 6th in the MVP voting. In the 1957-1958 NBA season, the Rochester Royals moved to Cincinnati, but Stokes made sure to bring his talent with him. I think in his 3rd year in the league, he truly cemented himself as one of the best players in the league, and when I tell you the company that he's in, you'll be a believer too. Stokes went on to average 16.9 points, 18.1 rebounds, and 6.4 assists a game, really becoming the guy for that Cincinnati team. Stokes ended that season second in rebounds per game and third in assists per game, and the only other two players in NBA history that have ever done that are Wilt Chamberlain and Nikola Jokic. Unsurprisingly, again, Stokes was named an All-Star, finished on a third straight second-team All-NBA team, and was fifth this time in MVP voting. But that, unfortunately, is where our story has to end. During the last game in the regular season of his third year, Stokes was knocked unconscious on a drive to the basket. An opposing player struck Stokes in the head, causing him to lose consciousness. Now, Stokes was able to play 3 days later in a playoff game in a series opener against the Detroit Pistons, in which he put up 12 points and 15 rebounds. But on the plane ride back to Cincinnati, he did lose consciousness and later ultimately had a seizure. He was later diagnosed with a post-traumatic brain injury that affected the motor skill. In the remaining years of his life, he would be supported by his dear friend and fellow NBA player Jack Twyman. Stokes was completely paralyzed after the incident, but he was able to communicate a little bit by blinking. He did eventually start a pretty rigorous therapy schedule in which he gained limited mobility and limited speech back. But sadly, 12 years after his accident, Stokes passed away from a heart attack at 36 years old. And per his request, he was buried on the campus of St. Francis College. His legacy does live on. However, as big of a fan as I am of professional basketball, I did not know that the Twyman Stokes Teammate of the Year award was named after these two pioneers of the NBA, and I think the NBA needs to do a better job at educating its fans. I wouldn't even have known about this player had I not gone looking for the best offensive players in the entire league, dating all the way back to 1946. And by pure dumb luck, I stumbled upon a surefire Hall of Famer's career that we never got to experience. In 3 very, very short years, he was able to put himself in conversations with guys like Bob Pettit, Bob Cousy, and Bill Russell. And even after his death, he still remains in conversations with guys like Wilt Chamberlain and Nikola Jokic because of his pure offensive output. A terrific rebounder, a great scorer, and arguably the best big man passer we had ever seen up to that point. On top of all the accolades that we've already talked about, Stokes finished his career with 12 triple-doubles in a time where people really weren't getting those kind of stats. I think that being able to do everything on the basketball floor is invaluable to a team, and only the elite of the elite can pull it off. Let me read you some of the names throughout NBA history that have less triple-doubles than Maurice Stokes did, and again, in only 3 years of action. LaMelo and Lonzo Ball, Blake Griffin, Paul Pierce, John Wall, Joel Embiid, Alperen Şengün, Steve Francis, Joakim Noah, Damian Lillard, Dwayne Wade, and Steph Curry. We were truly robbed of an all-time career. I'd have to imagine that if he had the 13 or 15 years played like a lot of his peers did, he would be in this pantheon of greats that we talk about, especially in that era of basketball, like a Jerry West, like a Wilt Chamberlain, like a Bill Russell. I think that because of his short career, he's not going to get the love and praise that he probably deserves, but when I found this out through my research, I couldn't not talk about it. I am happy at the very least that in 2004 he was inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. The casual NBA fan probably doesn't know much, if anything, about Maurice Stokes, but hopefully now you do. But that's going to do it for me today. I love learning new stuff about this game that I love. So why don't you tell me who's your favorite throwback player in the comments? While you're down there, check my description. I've got a link tree with all of my stuff. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I have a Discord community that I would love for you to be a part of. Be on the lookout for a couple videos in the future. Be kind. Tell somebody you love them. And I'll see you in the next one.
Barely scraping by. Trying to stop puffing. I'm trying to be one of the greats.